live.
Back again. Hello, good evening to you. Welcome to the locker room on Indie Live Radio, and you're watching us on Independence Live here until 7 o'clock tonight, doing my usual thing, talking about sport. And it's been it's been a quiet all week for sport because of the international teams are playing football. On the show tonight, joined by my wonderful co-host. Well, that's what it says here, but I wouldn't go that far. But Graham, how are you?
I'm good. Looking forward to another busy show. Looking forward to the game tomorrow and hopefully another euphoric Scotland victory.
All you're missing from that is freedom.
Well, I was going to do that, but I could just sing Flight of Scotland instead.
No, that's enough. So Graham's joining us tonight. Hopefully later on as well, we'll be joined by Regan Stevens and Michael Grant, football correspondent for the Times as well. He'll be joining us at 6 o'clock. So that the first hour, it's going to be me and Graham talking about Scotland, looking ahead to a small matter of the Republic of Ireland game tomorrow night and Tuesday night as well. Over in Portugal, Poland, but we're playing Ukraine as well. Don't forget, you know what to do by now. I've only said it for the last few weeks we've been doing this. Well, the last few months anyway. Comment on the video below if you're watching it on Facebook Live or YouTube, and we'll read your comments out between now and 7 o'clock here on Indie Live Radio and Independence Live. Okay, Graham, let's dive into it then. We left the show very happy boys on Wednesday night against Ukraine. Scotland won by, if you've forgotten the score, I don't know why you have, but Scotland won by 3-0, and it was McGinn after 14 minutes and Dykes coming off the bench to score a double to make it 3, and he got up well for these 2 goals as well. So 3 now. So let's carry on the conversation. I suppose I don't know where we left it in Wednesday night, but we were very happy, Graham.
We were, and rightly so. It was a great performance, a great victory, one that was needed, because I think it's fair to say there has been a bit of pressure on Steve Clarke. Whether that's fair, I don't know, but I think he needed that. And the performance for me, I know Dave spoke about it on Wednesday, and again, he was right to say the 3 points are all that mattered. Yes, it was, but that performance was very, very impressive. It really was. I thought from start, as I said at the start, I thought the first 10 minutes or so, I thought Ukraine actually started digging quite well. But then we came back into the game. And after that, I thought we were pretty dominant from all over the pitch. I thought the change of tactics really worked. We were very much exposed the last time we played Ukraine. This time we were a lot better. We pressed them a lot higher up the pitch, and we had numerous chances. I mean, we said on Wednesday, Stuart Armstrong could have had a hat-trick the amount of chances they missed. But it was just great to get a victory. And John McGinn on his 49th Scotland cap getting that opening goal, because I said on Wednesday as well, I genuinely thought after we missed about the 25th chance that we just weren't going to score. So once McGinn gets that goal, it kind of settles us down a bit. And then after that, I mean, we really dominated. We could have had a lot more than that. And I was pleased that Dykes came off the bench and got those 2 goals, because again, Dykes has been kind of somebody that a lot of Scotland fans maybe don't rate. But I thought he took his 2 goals very well. 2 very carbon copy goals, 2 set pieces, 2 good headers. And you're right, he got up well to them. So, yeah, it was a great win. But as I said on Wednesday, and as we'll probably say during the show tonight, we now have to build on that tomorrow. We cannot let that standard slip. And Dave mentioned this as well, that's going to be the benchmark now. We've got to go to this game tomorrow and beat Ireland, because we owe them from that horrendous result and performance the last time we played them.
Yeah, I hate to bring it up to you, Graham, but the last time we played Ireland, we get beat 3-0, but it felt as though we get beat about 6-0 because I don't think we even had a shot on target that game, and we were awful in that game, I thought.
Yeah, we did the show after the game and we were very deflated, let's be honest. And no surprise because we were awful. That's probably one of the worst performances I've seen from a Scotland side for quite a while. There's ways to get beat, and we lost that game showing no passion, no fight, no heart, no desire, no hunger. And that's something that you should never lack. But we did, unfortunately. And that was the total opposite on Wednesday. I thought we had all of that on Wednesday, and we've got to do that again. I don't think this Ireland side are particularly great, and yet they hammered us that day. So we owe them one. I know that if Dave Rosiri was saying the most important thing is 3 points, and yet again, he's right. But the performance has got to be the same as it was on Wednesday, because that was very, very impressive. And, now Steve Clark's got decisions to make, as I said on Wednesday. Obviously, Nathan Patterson will be out. I'd imagine Aaron Hickey will come in. And then your big decision is, does Lyndon Dykes start? He comes off the bench, scores 2 goals. So does he start? And it would be harsh on Adams if he doesn't start. So he's got decisions to make.
I spoke to you on Wednesday night about the manner of the performance, and I don't know about you, right? But of all my 21 years plus been on this earth, 21, 22, or maybe 29, maybe more. I haven't saw Scotland dominating a game, but I'll tell you what I noticed going Wednesday, Graham, and I noticed it on the show. Scotland's link-up play, I couldn't get away with that kind of like one-touch pass move, and that's what you like to see.
Oh, definitely. There was none of this long ball up. Let's get the ball forward as quickly as we can. It was build-up play, and I think the midfield helped that. As I said on Wednesday, I've been a big fan of, a big critic of Scott McTominay. I don't really know what he offers at times, but I thought on Wednesday was a lot better. And again, Callum McGregor just kept things ticking over like he does. And the ball was going forward a lot. And that was impressive. We were linking the play very well. And I spoke about the energy on Wednesday. And I thought Armstrong and Christie gave us that. And again, I thought they were very impressive. But you're right, the link-up play on Wednesday was probably the best it's been for a while for Scotland. And I think as well, you have to give credit to Che Adams for that. Because Adams' movement up front, his link-up play, his running in behind, was outstanding, and I thought that gave us a bit of a benchmark. So, yeah, the link-up play was excellent, but now we have to carry that on tomorrow. We can't go back, as I said on Wednesday, you can't go 1 step forward, 2 steps back. That's got to be the benchmark now, and we have to go win this game tomorrow now.
And then when you're going in at half time, Graham, and the chances are they going in, you're saying to yourself, oh no, is it going to be one of these nights? Because it was still 0-0 and we created for about 45 chances a goal and not scored. And, you're coming out in the second half and say, oh, is that our luck over? But obviously it wasn't. It worked in our favour.
I think before we scored, I think we had about 4 or 5 really good chances in the space of about 5 minutes. And that's when I thought, we're not scoring here. I know I spoke to somebody a couple of days ago that said, I always felt Scotland would score because we were dominant. Yeah, we were, but we weren't taking our chances. And it was one of these nights that you just thought, it's not going to happen. So once McGinn gets that goal, it settled us down. You can hear the fans I think it was relief more than anything that the fact we'd scored. And I'll be honest, at the time when McGinn scored, I had my son watching it with me. When McGinn scored, I didn't celebrate because I thought they're going to give a foul. Something will happen, they'll give a foul. So it was a relief that he got the goal, and it was deserved. And on another day, that's a good, let's be honest, Ukraine are a very good side, and we absolutely hammered them. That could have been 6 or 7. So, that could have been a lot more than that.
Regan, how are you?
I'm not bad. Sorry I'm late. It's a fashion.
Yeah, it is a fashion. And one more, and you'll be out, because that's the second time we've been late. And I'm expecting an email from you again. But back in the day, it was a letter, but now it's an email. We've moved into the...
Michael, I get told to be 6 minutes late. It's all pre-planned, mate. It's all pre-planned.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing how many people speaks about me behind my back, but never mind, we'll move on. How you doing, Regan?
I'm doing no bad, Michael. I'm looking forward to the game tomorrow. I've just got my my ticket's ready, and I'm looking forward to it, mate. I think we've done well on Wednesday night. I was listening to you guys last night speak about it. I mean, apart from my telly being broke, it was good to watch you.
And well, Grim does it. Grim does that sometimes to you, especially Dave as well. But Dave's not on tonight, so you'll be fine if you're watching it on the big TV. But we were on Wednesday night. We had a good show, good
You
game.
were.
What was your take on that game, Reagan?
My take was it's probably the most complete performance under Steve Clark. I thought we outplayed a top 10 team in the planet. We outplayed them from start to finish. That guy, Botodam, never got sent off was beyond me. I mean, I did hear Charlie Adams speak on ITV saying that he just couldn't understand it, and I couldn't understand it either.
Did you hear it? Did you hear Alan Hutton? It wasn't a yellow. It might have been a red, but it should have been more. What colour card do you want? It's a red card, mate.
And then you had Kenny Miller saying it was an orange card, right? I was like, all right, no problem.
I was just making colours of cards up there, were we?
Strange one, Graham.
I think they should sing "I Can Sing a Rainbow." Anyway, we'll move on. Reagan, yeah.
The big thing for me in Wednesday, I ask you guys about it. I think we're a better team without the captain of the team. I think we're a better team.
That's a fair point that you made, Reagan. I don't know how you feel about that, Graham, but to be honest, I know you're a big Liverpool fan, but we didn't really miss him on Wednesday night.
I think Reagan must have read my comments in the group chat earlier on when I wanted to say what have a discussion about this, because
did you? Sorry.
I was listening to a podcast earlier on and they were talking about Scotland.
How dare you, mate, listen to anything else but this?
I know. What could I say? Listen to your own podcast radio show is not very good, and I just get slagged off for doing it for my wife anyway. So, but I listened to another podcast and they were talking about Scotland and they were obviously very positive, rightly so. But then they got into talking about when basically folk are fit, who do you drop? And their main thing from the whole take was that Andy Robertson should be dropped because they said that you can't play Tierney and Robertson. Now, I don't personally agree with that. I think you can play both, but I think you've got to play them in different positions. I mean, Andy Robertson has been not great for Liverpool this season, but then no Liverpool player has. It's been a really poor start to the season, and Robertson struggled with that. But I still think there is a place for Robertson. I still think there was a lot going forward and defensively. But at the moment, Kieran Tierney at the moment, I think we spoke about this on Wednesday, is probably our most valuable player, and he can't be taken out. You need him. And it does show when Tierney isn't there that we do miss him. But I personally think there is still a place for Robertson and Tierney in that squad.
Yeah, I mean, of course there is. I mean, look at the Denmark game. I think the two of them played that day. Did you know, Graham?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I thought the other night as well. I know I've been critical of him, but I thought Mr. Ryan Christie was amazing on Wednesday night. I thought he was. I don't know, people slagged him like David Proven on different radio stations and Mark Gately and people like that. But I thought he played really well in Wednesday, Graham.
I think I said to Michael Wednesday as well that I thought Christie and Armstrong gave us a lot of energy going forward. I know Armstrong missed about 10 or 12 decent chances, but he still brought a lot to the team. And yeah, I thought Christie was excellent. So again, it's the case of, I mean, I don't think you can take him around tomorrow. Apart from obviously Nathan Patterson being injured and you put Aaron Hickey in, I don't think you can change that team because they were very impressive. But then, as I said earlier, Lyndon Dykes has just scored 2 goals. So it might be harsh not to play him, but I just think that team deserves to start again.
That's actually a good point, Reagan, because you can't really upset a winning team.
No, as the common phrase they use in sport, Michael, I don't understand it, but they always say you don't upset the apple cart, which is I don't understand that because I've never seen an apple cart. But anyway, but you don't want to upset the apple cart tomorrow, and I think that if you speak about Armstrong and Che Adams and Ryan Christie, I think if you want to drop those guys, maybe it'd be psychological, Graham, because if they put a great performance in like that, they don't expect to be dropped.
No, I mean, everyone put in a great shift on Wednesday. It was just a very you're right. It was a complete performance. We dominated a very, very good Ukraine side. And the boy they spoke about before the game, that Mudryk on the left-hand side,
Oh, what a player!
I thought he started the game very well. But I said on Wednesday as well, I thought Hickey was outstanding when he came on.
He was.
He gave him absolutely no chances at all. And listen, there's absolutely no doubt for me that Mudryk guy is going to go for a lot of money because he's a talented player. There's no question about that. But I thought we handled him really well. And just, going forward, I thought Scotland created probably more chances in that game than I've seen us create for a long, long time.
I know people won't want to hear this, but I thought Jack Henry and Scott McKenna were a really good, solid pairing as well. Graham.
Yeah, I was slightly worried when I saw the team and saw they were in it, but they didn't have a lot to do. As we said on Wednesday as well, I can't remember Craig Gordon having really anything to do.
No, I think somebody said it on Wednesday night, Graham, in the post-match reaction. They said, "What colour of top does Craig Gordon wear?" And I seen that in the comments, and I was like, "That's true." Because if you look at it, Michael, I mean, when is the last time we kind of said that Craig Gordon had nothing to do?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been saying to Graham for weeks, that he's been working so hard for Hearts that in the gig of 90 minutes to recover, because he's been saving Hearts for weeks in the league and all that. But it's quite refreshing, guys, how we're actually talking about a Scotland game and we haven't touched upon the goalkeeper.
Yeah, because I did speak about this on Wednesday night on a different programme, Michael. I said that.
Oh, you're on a different programme now as well, are you? You gave me stick for listening to a different podcast a minute ago.
I did. I said that if you look at Craig Gordon and you look at Steve Clark, these are two guys that if we don't get the result in Wednesday night, which we did, thankfully. But if we didn't, then Craig Gordon and Steve Clark would be under pressure because people would be talking about, oh, we need to give someone else a chance, or we need to get a new manager in. So now that we've got that result, Michael, it just settles everybody down a bit and everybody can relax a bit. And hopefully, from Scotland's point of view, Michael, we can win tomorrow convincingly, and then Armenia beat Ukraine or get a draw against Ukraine as well. And then that means Tuesday's game is not needed to be as crucial as it would be, because as much as they're playing in Poland, Michael, I don't fancy going to Poland hoping for a draw, because I think that Ukraine will come out all firing.
Would you say that, Reagan, that if we were having this conversation before the Ukraine game on Wednesday night, would you say that out of the 3 games you would take 7 points?
I think 7 points would be good, but if Ukraine draw tomorrow, then I would take the 6, because I think if you look at the way Ukraine played, I was looking at the last 12 matches. There's not one away game in 12 matches. That's an incredible stat to look at. But if you look at the home record's incredible. So I think the only time they've not won is when they drew 1-1 against Republic Island. So if they've got a home record like that, then I don't fancy their chances away from home. But like you said, what we need to do is take care of tomorrow night and hope that Armenia can get a draw or even a win, because then that would settle the nerves and it would put Steve Clark and his boys, Graham, 2 wins away from Euro 2024.
Yeah, that's an early kickoff tomorrow as well. That Ukraine game.
Oh.
That's 2:00 that game. So we'll know that by the time we kick off, we'll know what that result is. So
Are Ukraine at home or away, Graham?
No, it's in Armenia, mate.
Oh, good. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to find somewhere to tune in, because.
So, if Armenia can get something out of that game, then I think our game tomorrow is a big game anyway. But then it becomes even bigger, because we'll then know that if Armenia have taken something out of Ukraine, if we beat Ireland, then we've won the group with a game to spare. So that would be huge.
And I think as well, it just shows you how quick football can be. Because remember me and you was on this radio show after the Republic of Ireland game, people were saying, "Oh, we don't know if Steve Clark still got it." The team just looked a bit short to pieces. Maybe a new idea would be the best thing for the team. But then, how fickle are football fans? How fickle are me and you, Graham? Steve Clark then gets a win in Armenia by 4-1, and then we go and we beat Ukraine by 3-0.
I've been called worse than fickle, so I'll take that all day. No, it would be, but you're right. Football fans are fickle, and I said this to Dave and Michael on Wednesday. I asked the question that had we not beat Ukraine on Wednesday, would Clark have been under pressure? And Dave thought he would have been, and I think he would have been as well, but that might have been slightly unfair. I think he has done a really good job with Scotland. And what I would say is as well, I don't want to be negative because this is a positive show just now, but...
Oh, come on, Graham. Being negative on a Friday night.
No, I just don't understand the need to bring in Josh Doig and Declan Gallagher. That for me is completely wrong.
I've not kept up with the news today, so is that the news that's in?
It came out yesterday. Nathan Patterson's out, and so was somebody else, David Turnbull, and they brought in Josh Doig and Declan Gallagher. For me, I don't agree with that, but that's just me.
No, I did think he might bring in Stephen Kingsley and Barry Mackay. I did think he would do that because you look at Stephen Kingsley. I mean, he's been amazing this season. Same with Barry Mackay. I just don't see why he's not going to look in. I did see something that's quite interesting, Graham. I don't know if you know this, but Barry Mackay has said that he doesn't like football. Have you seen this?
Is there a punchline here?
No, he said he doesn't like football. He plays it for the money.
I haven't seen that, and I can't believe that at all. Not for Barry Mackay.
Well, I'm sure that's what's happened recently, Graham. I'm sure he said that he doesn't like football.
Sure, it wasn't Malky Mackay we're talking about.
No.
I was just looking at the notes, guys, from the last game, that Ireland game beat us, right? And I mean, everybody's right, and Graham's right as well, that we need to give Ireland a good game tomorrow, because basically I put down here, Scotland was poor from start to finish, and this was Ireland's first win at home in 3 years. That makes it a bit worse when you put it like that, Regan.
It does, Michael, and it does worry me that they've got somebody that talks more than me and Graham. A guy called Troy Parrott. You heard that? They've got a guy called Troy Parrott playing tomorrow. So,
do you know what? I've actually got the Scotland team that played that day, right? So it was Craig Gordon, Jack Henry, Grant Hanley, Scott McKenna, Andy Robertson, Callum McGregor, Scott McTominay, Anthony Ralston, John McGinn, Ryan Christie, and Che Adams. So from Wednesday night, there was no Hanley, there was no Ralston, and there was no Robertson, but everyone else started.
This might be controversial, Graham, but I don't know if Grant Hanley's best days are behind him. Do you agree with that?
I think they probably are. I think he's been a good servant for Scotland, but I think they probably are.
But I mean, it showed you that, Graham, when you were rigging out that team as well. And when the last time Scotland were playing, Kieran Tierney wasn't in the team. And I mean, you mentioned that a wee while ago, and we mentioned it on the show on Wednesday night. You fairly miss him when he's not in the team, because he done well on Wednesday night.
Do you know the subs that day for Scotland were Nathan Patterson, John Souttar, Ross Stewart, Ross McCrory, Billy Gilmore, Greg Taylor, Stuart Armstrong, David Turnbull, Jacob Brown, Alan Campbell, remember him? Liam Kelly and Aaron Hickey. That was the subs that day. How many of them are in that squad now? Not very many of them.
Well, it's an interesting one, Graham, because you still think that team would be one that could beat Republic of Ireland, but obviously, I think the Irish fans are at the end of their terror with Stephen Kenny. Obviously, he didn't do too well in Scotland either.
The one player that worries me in that Ireland team is Michael Obafemi up front. He was outstanding in that last game, and he's the one player that worries me because he's got real pace, and he's a very good player. I've watched him for Swansea a few times. He's a good player. So if he plays tomorrow, which I think he probably will, I think Hendry and McKenna are going to be in for a tough day. But we've got to play what we did on Wednesday night, because that's the benchmark.
Have they not got a guy called Robinson that scored for West Brom in the Premier League for quite a few times? And
Yeah, they do.
he
And,
seems to be a good player.
and as you mentioned as well, Troy Parrott as well.
Aye.
Let's hope he's sick as a parrot tomorrow night.
Boom,
Boom.
boom.
Hero week.
Yeah.
I was going to say, Graham, it's like a parrot. You keep copying me there.
Yeah.
It's like a parrot. You keep copying me there. Sorry,
He's always on your shoulder. He's always on your shoulder. He's always on your shoulder. Anyway, move on.
He's got a chip. He's got a chip. He's got a chip in that shoulder, Graham.
No, it's not a chip. It's a chip shop, Reagan. Yeah. So, tomorrow, Reagan, hoping for the same. And if I was Steve Clark, and I know he watches this show of the week, I wouldn't change much about that team, apart from maybe playing scatting the game with Dykes up front, because you can afford to make one or two changes at home, but not away from home.
Yeah, Graham, I want to ask you, right? I think Republic Island, right? I think they'll be pretty defensive, right? Do you think this is a game where we can play 2 up?
We actually spoke about this on Wednesday. I mean, I know we've tried to play Dykes and Adams before, and I think at times it has worked. But I just thought the way we played on Wednesday with that kind of 4-2-3-1, I actually thought that was a better formation for us. Whether 4-4-2 would work tomorrow, I don't know. It could be potentially, because I think it is very harsh to drop Che Adams because he was very good on Wednesday. And as I said, Lyndon Dykes has scored 2 goals, so it would be, again, if you're rewarding with a seat back on the bench again, he might be thinking, wait a minute, I've just scored 2 goals for you. So it's a difficult one, but I just think that 4-2-3-1 worked on Wednesday, and I would be loath to change it.
But I saw, I don't know about you, but I saw a bit of Stevie Clark's press conference today, and they were saying about Lyndon getting Dykes, and they were asking about that, and they said when the team got announced, when he was on the bench, Lyndon Dykes wasn't very happy about that. But when they come on and they scored, he kind of answered the question. And he says that you would rather have like an unhappy player to come on the park and score a goal.
Yep, definitely, because if you look at Dykes, he's got proper composition there, Graham, with Adams. I mean, over the years we've had McBurney. I mean, McBurney was like, it was like me and you up front, because me and you could have played. I mean, I did hear somebody say that McBurney was in the squad to be the character and be jokey and stuff like that. I mean, if you're in the squad for being jokey, Michael might as well get in. I mean, Michael says crap jokes in this show every week. And he's still on it, you know.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, but I can't help myself sometimes. You know what I mean?
I know.
Just to remind people that we're on air tomorrow night after the Scotland Ireland game, 10 o'clock on Indie Live Radio and Independence Live. And if we're talking about other shows, we'll be on Tuesday night again, fun enough, at 10 o'clock after the Ukraine game. So join us. And then next weekend, we'll be back to normal for the football will be back Saturday and Saturday? No, we're not. We're on Friday and Sunday next week, and for the European games the week after. So it's all happening here in the locker room.
Michael, obviously, I was on Sunday for the talking about the games from the Premiership on Sunday. I want to ask Graham, because I thought Motherwell on Sunday were very, very good against Hearts. And does that just show you that as much as Hearts walk away with a 3-0 victory, it shows you how unpredictable football can be? I mean, 1 minute you could be a great player, the next minute you could be an absolute dud. You know,
Yeah, I mean, I tried to watch the game last week, and the stream kept cutting out, so I had to watch Sportsing later on. And as I said to Michael before we came on air, how Motherwell didn't score, I do not know.
My God.
The post hit the bar. Craig Gordon was making great saves, as he always does. Motherwell played really well, but Hearts were clinical. We scored with pretty much our 3 real only chances. And that's the way football works sometimes. Sometimes you play well and don't get a result. Sometimes you play poorly and do. So I was delighted with that last week. And I said on Twitter earlier on today, asking some fellow Hearts fans who they think is our best signing this season. There's been a lot of different variations, but a few folk have said Alan Forrest. And again, I can't disagree with that. I think Forrest is really good.
Alan Forrest.
He's the better Forrest brother. But to get that win last week on the back of sustained pressure from Motherwell, I was delighted with that. But I mean, it's the big game next week against Rangers at Tynecastle. That's going to be huge. We could potentially go joint second to win that game. So, and we're getting players back from injury as well. We've still got a few out, but we're getting players back. So,
who's back?
Craig Halkett should be back, and we've got Keogh and Snodgrass as well are available. So we're getting the squad's looking strong. We're still missing Beningame. We're still missing Liam Boyce. We're still missing Benny Beningame, of course, but we're getting a lot stronger now.
So we'll speak a bit more about that game next week. Of course, Hearts at home to Rangers and Celtics back in action against the mighty Motherwell as well. We'll speak about the game next weekend. Keep your comments coming in. I know we've got a commenter saying that he'll watch the tennis. And yeah, I know that the tennis is on. Andy Murray is playing tonight, so we'll update you that on the next cover on the show as well with Mr. Regan Stevens. Coming up at 6 o'clock tonight, we've got Michael Grant coming on the show, speaking about all things Scottish football. And it's just been announced today that the Scottish Premiership clubs are meeting next week to attempt to resolve the issue being proposed by Sky TV. So we'll get into that in hour 2 of the show. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So Graham, just come back in tomorrow's game. The feel-good factor will be at Hampden Park tomorrow night, and it'll be a sellout because it's a Saturday night and all the rest of it. So the Scotland fans are looking to put the Scotland fans hoping that the Scotland team will put on a show and deliver them 3 points.
Yeah, and I think there has been a lot of over the past probably. Maybe not a few months, but there has been a lot of people talking about the fact that, they can't be bothered with international breaks. It's rubbish. You want normal football back. But there is a buzz around Scotland just now. And that performance on Wednesday was so impressive. A lot of folk are talking about it now. And I think it'll make other folks sit up and say, actually, that's a good result for Scotland, beating a very good Ukraine side 3-0. So I think there is a feel-good factor in Scotland just now, but we've got to keep that going. And I think we can tomorrow. I'd be disappointed if we lost to that Ireland side because, as I say, I don't think they're a particularly great side. And to lose to them again would be a massive blow. But we've got to keep that momentum going from Wednesday.
Regan, I touched upon earlier on about do we change anything about that team on Wednesday night? Maybe the only dilemma you'll have is will Dykes start the game or will we play half a game or whatever? What would you do?
I would play Dykes. I mean, I said on Wednesday night, I said that
take on news coming out this afternoon. Basically, it was 2 hours ago, so I was near enough time for us to go on the show. But the Scottish Premiership clubs will meet next week to attempt to resolve an issue around the postponed new $150 million deal, broadcasting deal by Sky Sports. Now, I can tell you that the only 2 teams has yet to back the deal is Rangers and Livingston. But I'm very surprised at Livingston. Maybe not Rangers, but we'll come back to that in a minute. But Livingston, I'm quite surprised at that. So, Graham, I wanted your take on this story.
I'm just trying to see it here. So the current Sky contract allows the broadcasters to up to 48 games per season and it's due to expire in 2025. I mean, I'm just trying to see what it means. So it's basically saying Rangers and Livingston are yet to back a submission that would net clubs a collective £30 million a season over 5 years and allow Sky to show 60 games per campaign. I mean, how many times have we spoken about the fact that the Sky deal isn't particularly great for Scottish football? I mean, showing 60 games per campaign, that sounds better. But you know it's going to be the same teams that are going to get shown every week because it usually is.
Yeah, but it's a minimum of 48 with a push of 60. It's not.
But yeah, I mean sorry, Reagan. That's a fair point that Grim makes here, right? Because okay, we know it's going to be predominantly Celtic Rangers games, Celtic Hearts, Rangers Hibs away games, and then you'll get the Old Firm games for the Parkhead Ibrox. But if you are not an Old Firm fan, what you are, Grim, like a Hearts fan, you would rather see Hearts playing Aberdeen than Celtic playing Kilmarnock. And to be honest, so would I, because okay, you're getting a big tour on the telly every week, but I mean, you're not getting to see the likes of Aberdeen playing Hearts. And well, to be honest, last week's game, and I told you in the show, Graham, last week, Motherwell and Hearts, and I saw the game. We saw the game when we were doing the show. It was a decent enough game, and that would have been a decent game to watch on the TV.
Yeah, it would have been, but I mean, again, I haven't seen if Rangers and Livingston don't agree to it, and whether they will, I don't know. But I don't know if every club has to agree to this, or if it means that if these two clubs don't agree, it doesn't happen. I haven't seen what the actual whole deal is about this.
To be honest, I'm glad they're not agreeing to the deal.
By the way, I'm very surprised at Livingston, right? Because I'll tell you why, and no disrespect to Livingston, right? And
be careful with my pal David, you know.
you can comment if you want, but Livingston compared to Rangers are a very small club, right? So Livingston, no, seriously, right? But you would imagine that Livingston, if any deal is going, Livingston would be the first ones at the table, because Livingston, well, to be honest, they've got a nice stadium, not a big fan base to fill it every week. And the only way it's going to be filled is when Celtic, Rangers and Hearts comes to Livingston to play their games, right? But I'm very surprised at Livingston not to back the deal. And I'm very, Rangers may, I'm not entirely sure about that one, but Livingston, Glim.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be interested to know why they've not backed it yet. If there's just a delay or something, I don't know, but I'll be interested to know why they've not backed it yet. But the thing is,
maybe the emails have been lost, Glim.
It's no Dundee we're talking about. But I just think, I mean, I've said this a few times as well. See if I'm an outsider looking at a game, say like it's, I don't know, we'll take Livingston for example, but say they were watching Livingston against, I'm just going to pick a team, Motherwell for example, right? You look at that and think, there's a lot of empty seats in this ground. That doesn't look great for Scottish football. You look at most English Premiership games and they're pretty much full to capacity, whereas that's not the case in Scotland. So, even looking at like St Johnstone, and we spoke about this a while ago as well, you look at the European game St Johnstone had, I think it was against Galatasaray. Mm-hmm. McDermott Park was pretty much full that night, and it's never been full ever since. And that's always been a concern for me about Scottish football. A lot of grounds don't get filled out, and if you're watching that on Sky, it doesn't look particularly great.
Whereas BT, and I'm not picking sides here, right? Because I know people watching both sides, but BT that you had, I remember games that it was not involving the Old Firm, if you know what I mean. And I remember BT Sport, they do not have the games on a Friday night as well, and Saturday and sometimes Sunday. So that, so it's an interesting one. But like, Reagan, are you not backing this kind of deal?
I suppose the only thing for Livingston is, it's like Graham said 2 weeks ago when we spoke about this. Graham said maybe they should open up for more broadcasters to pile in rather than just accepting the first offer that comes in. Maybe that's what Rangers have done. They said, can any other club help us here? And maybe open it up to other broadcasters. Because I'm sure it might go right. See, if you're working in radio, right, and somebody comes to you and says, right, Michael, we can give you an offer for this radio station, but we're only paying you a fiver, mate. But see, if you come to this radio station, we'll pay you 25 quid, mate. You know? So, like, I think there needs to be more parties at the table. There needs to be more broadcasting. Like, there needs to be Amazon Prime, Netflix, BT Sport, Sky Sports, even the company that does the Scotland game on Wednesday night. That is it Viz Play or Vid Play or what do you call them?
This player or something.
Yep. Even a company like that, even if they said, right, well, we can give you a slightly better deal, why should we take the first offer that's given? You know, if you're not happy with the deal, then fair play to Rangers and fair play to Livingston, because I don't know if you agree with that, Graham and Michael, because I just think that sometimes we can be too open in Scotland to go, oh, here we go, we've got a £150 deal, we better take it because nobody else is going to give us a new deal.
Well, this is the thing. I know Michael spoke about this on Wednesday as well, but you're looking at like tonight, for example, right? You've got Italy against England on, I think it's ITV plus
Channel
4.
Yeah, us Scotland fans have got to pay for Premier Sports to watch Scotland tomorrow. That for me is a joke. That should be free to view.
And that see, this is what we're talking about, right? And I don't know if you were finishing your point there, Glenn, but this comment fits in with the Scotland comment, right? Because even though the Scotland game, and that, to be honest, I spoke to a lot of people this week that didn't realise the Scotland game was on ITV4. But the point was, and I never said this on the show on Wednesday night because we were too busy talking about how brilliant the performance was from Scotland. But why put that game on ITV4? Why not put it on the main channel?
Yeah, I mean, I just don't agree with the whole Scotland game having to be on Premier Sports. As I said a couple of weeks ago, you've got our own BBC Scotland channel. You know, why don't you just show it on that? But to show it on Premier Sports, and you're right, I had a mate message me off Wednesday night to say, oh, I can't find the Scotland game on the normal channels. I was like, it's on ITV4. And he's like, oh, thanks very much. He didn't know it was on ITV4. So,
yeah.
You know, you've got to, you should be showing these games on these channels, because honestly, having to pay for Premier Sports, it's just an absolute joke to watch a Scotland game.
But I mean, ITV4, even though it was good, ITV4 putting the game on, Graham, but you've actually got to go and look for the game. You know what I mean? Whereas if you turn on the game, STV's there and you can watch the game. But ITV4, you've actually got to go down the menu very far down to find it. Whereas STV, you can just switch on and watch the game.
Yeah, I mean, I generally didn't know the England game was on ITV4, Channel 4. I thought it would be on like I thought it would be like on BT Sport or Premier Sports, and to my surprise, it's not. It's on normal TV.
I think Channel 4's got the rights to old England games, Glenn, because the last time England was playing Hungary, and you know, the last time they were in European action, international action, the game was on Channel 4 as well.
Yeah, that was a fun game to watch. Hungary 4, England 0. That was fun. No, but it would just be, I would rather watch Scotland on a normal TV channel like ITV4, like ITV, rather than having to figure out how to try and pay for Premier Sports to watch the game. I'll get to watch it because I managed to download it on my phone, but that's not the point. Why are we having to pay to watch a Scotland game on Premier Sports? And the thing is, a lot of other Scotland fans will like that as well. It's like, I'm not paying for Premier Sports to watch that game. No chance. And I get the point as well.
And do you think that Scotland fans, so the Scotland football fans pay enough, as in for Sky Sports, Premier Sports, who's got the League Cup, and later on this year, or next year, you've got the Scottish Cup on Premier Sports. you hardly see a game on the telly, apart from if it's like a Scottish Cup game or the Scottish Cup final. But apart from that, you get no games on kind of like the likes of BBC.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I know, was it last week there was meant to be Pollock against Huntley in the Scottish Cup that was getting shown live, and that got obviously taken off. And that would have been a good game to watch, for Pollock and Huntley fans. That would have been great. And they do sometimes show the Scottish Cup games on BBC and that, but again, it's very rare that you see these games, and I just want to be able to watch Scotland games on a Scotland channel rather than having to pay to watch on Premier Sports, which I did have, but I deleted it because there was nothing on it. And then, lo and behold, they start showing the Scotland games on it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's not really fair for Scotland fans to pay for your season tickets, pay for Sky Sports, and pay for Premier Sports as well. As I just speak about TV, Michael has come on, Michael Grant. Good evening to you, Michael.
Hi, Michael. Sorry for the delay. Had to get Scotland work out of the way, I'm afraid, from the press conference this afternoon.
Yeah, no bother. Obviously, we've spoke about Scotland before, and I know that you were at the press conference today. Any team news coming out of that from Stevie Clarke?
No, not really. He did talk about having some decisions to make on Tierney and Armstrong and Jack Henry, just in terms of how many minutes he gives them. Because obviously it's a big game tomorrow night, but it's also a big game on Tuesday against Ukraine and in Poland. So I think he's mindful of the fact that it's going to ask a lot of the players to peak 3 times in 7 days. But in terms of injuries, I don't think there's any other fresh problems. He's not aware yet of the seriousness of the Nathan Patterson injury, but obviously Nathan won't play any part in these 2 games.
Michael, I was just sorry, Michael. Just going to say, we've been talking on the show earlier about the fact that obviously we know that Clark's got decisions to make. One of them, as I mentioned earlier, is the fact that you've got Lyndon Dykes, who came off the bench and scored 2 on Wednesday. I thought Che Adams was really good on Wednesday. So what does Clark do? Does Reagan, I mentioned, maybe playing them both? But it would be very harsh for me to drop anybody from that team because I thought they played very well on Wednesday.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I was looking at Dykes' record actually. I think it's 6 goals in his last 8 internationals, which is it's incredible, Regan. No, it's terrific, really. But I agree with you, Graham. I think that Adams offered so much on Wednesday night, and to be honest, he didn't even really do very much wrong with those 2 headers that. One hit the underside of the bar and one was saved. I thought he led the line brilliantly. He worked tirelessly. Dykes, 2 fantastic headers. And I think it was interesting that Steve Clarke gave a little bit of credit to Austin McPhee, the set piece specialist coach, after the game. And it made me wonder if that had been something they moved on, it worked on in terms of the positioning of where the corners would go to and where Dykes would run and try and find space. But of course, you still have to you still have to apply the finish. Regan, the only thing I would say against the playing 2 up front was, if you remember, he did go 2 up front against Ukraine in June. And to be honest, I doubt he'll do that again, because I think it leaves the midfield too stretched. You're effectively a kind of man down against a good side now. Ireland aren't as good as Ukraine, but I'd be surprised, to be honest, if he plays them against a good side together.
Yeah, I mean,
Michael, we were just talking about the Scotland game tomorrow night as well, and we've kind of spoke about the Scotland game for the past hour, but I just wanted to get your take on this. I don't know if you saw the news, because you were at Stevie Clarke's press conference. Well, we were just talking about the Scottish Premiership clubs will meet next week to attempt to resolve the issue around a proposed new TV deal with Sky worth 150 million. And the the only clubs has not submitted a proposal yet of, well, not a proposal, but a support for the deal is Rangers and Livingston. Now, what's your take on that? Because I was saying to the guys before you come on, and I'm not being funny about it, and if any Livingston fans are watching, I'm not being funny towards Livingston, but I'm very surprised that Livingston not back in the deal.
Yeah, it is curious. I mean, I'm not surprised that Rangers are stalling on it, because there are issues there between Rangers and the SPFL. I mean, I think we all know that. You know that they bluntly, Rangers would like regime change at the top of the SPFL. So I think they're always going to make life a little bit difficult. They're always going to, be the last to be convinced that anything the SPFL is doing is for the best or could not be improved. I mean, I know Rangers' position publicly is that they think this deal could be better, frankly, and they think that the SPFL should have gone out to the market and tried to get a better deal than Sky. Forgive me, I don't know what you guys have said about it before I came on. I'll be honest, I'm not convinced that there really is that much more to be got from the market. You know, I think if broadcasters did think that they wanted to put more into Scottish football, then it's easily done. You know, I don't think it necessarily involves or requires Neil Doncaster to go knocking on the door of BT Sport or Amazon Prime or the Disney Channel or whatever. I think these companies know about Scottish football, and I'm not convinced that there is a better deal out there than the Sky one. I mean, I think we're all frustrated that it's whatever it is, £30 million a year compared to the incredible riches in England. But I'm not sure that there's an awful lot more out there, unfortunately.
Michael, as a kind of as a kind of non-Old Firm fan, and don't worry, we're not going to mention the team that you support. Let's just say that you support Elgin.
Mention if you like.
Elgin City then as well. But no, obviously Aberdeen, and obviously Graham's a Hearts fan, and we all, as well as me being a journalist, I'm a Scottish football fan as well. But are you a bit frustrated, a bit like Graham, where you see, Celtic against Aberdeen, Rangers against Hearts, Rangers against Aberdeen? So what I'm kind of getting at is you don't see a kind of lesser game on the telly. No disrespect to Hibs against Kilmarnock. You never see teams like that. But you always see the big two. And do you think it's fair?
Yeah, I'm laughing at Graham smiling at Hibs being disregarded there as one of the small fry. Yeah, listen, I get the point entirely. In fact, I think from the last season, the Sky didn't even show all the games that they could have shown, did they?
No.
Yes,
I think they were under the kind of quota that they had. Yeah, and I think probably all of us here would sit and watch any Premier League game that was on. Listen, I can only imagine, playing devil's advocate, and I can only imagine that the broadcasters have done the sums and don't think that it's worthwhile. I mean, I think you see the numbers, particularly, it's really obvious, I think, when you see the Premier Sports games that they pick, it's really only Rangers and Celtic.
Yes.
I think they are showing one of the other quarterfinals in the League Cup, but
Kilmarnock, I think it is.
Kilmarnock, yeah, but that's because they've got the rights anyway. They've paid them, but any time that they pick two games, it's always the Rangers and Celtic ties. I think that annoys a lot of fans from non-Old Firm clubs, that you think, well, there's a more entertaining looking game somewhere else rather than Rangers or Celtic at home to a lower league club. You think that by and large that's a formality. We know what the result's going to be. But yeah, I mean, I think that's the general frustration that we all find, that if Sky have paid the money and they're not actually showing all the games that they could show, it's a bit disappointing.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, Michael, because you're talking about Aberdeen Celtic game during lockdown, and the league was over, and I remember Sky putting out on the day of the game or maybe it was the day before because they felt as though the league was over. Fuck, it was over anyway. But Celtic and Aberdeen's usually a good game, especially up at Aberdeen, and they pulled the plug on at the last minute. However, if that was a big game in England against like Tottenham against Man City or something, they would never do that. So they're overlooking Scottish football. Okay, the quality is not very good at times. We can all agree on that. But, it's just like, I don't know about Graham or Reagan, but I just feel as though when Sky presents the football, they're not putting the effort into it because it's the same pundits every week, no matter what game it is.
Sorry, Michael. I think one of the things I think pundits, we'll always agree or disagree on whether we like a pundit or not. I think one of the things that and I know actually this annoys some people in Sky, that you see the number of mistakes that you see on graphics, on the wrong club badge and stuff like that. Now, I think, or I'm told that is because it's done from London. It's done by maybe young staff, who don't have a feel for Scottish football, don't have a great knowledge, or they wouldn't see a mistake as obviously as immediately as we do, But the whole impression is pretty poor, isn't it? It makes it look it makes it look like we're a bit second, we're an afterthought kind of thing, and I think that annoys a lot of supporters.
It sounds like the same folk that operate VAR in England, to be fair.
Yeah, but
I wanted to ask you.
Sorry, Regan. One thing I was just going to quickly say was, if you remember that Deloitte report that the clubs commissioned that came out a few weeks ago, a month ago, whatever, it pretty much said or concluded that there isn't a big queue of broadcasters out there that are willing to pay more than Sky, and I think for all the frustrations that we might have about Sky, they are the ones for the last 15 years, 20 years, that they've been the ones that have been pumping money into Scottish football. Maybe not enough. We'd all like to see more, but they're the ones that have offered more than BT Sport, for example, who have been really creative and imaginative about Scottish football. But when it came to it, Sky were signing bigger checks to get it.
Because Michael, here, I just want back to Scotland again, because I wanted to ask Michael a question I asked you boys earlier. Actually, I've got two things. Firstly, Michael, I thought Reagan was right. He said that Wednesday was one of the complete performances that we've seen from Scotland. I think it was. But as well, I mentioned earlier that I listened to another podcast before I came on the show tonight, and they were talking about who would you drop when everyone's fit. And the general consensus was that Andy Robertson should be dropped. Now, they've said that Kieran Tierney and Andy Robertson can't play in the same team, which I disagree with. And I want to get your thoughts on that, of whether you thought when Robertson comes back that we can still play Tierney and Robertson, because I think there is still a place for both of them.
Yeah, would you go back to a back three then to get them both in?
I think I probably would, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was looking at this. I wrote about this in the paper today, that for the first 8 games Clark had as manager, he played a back four. He was a back four man at Kilmarnock. So he played the first 8 games was a back four. He then switched to a back three, which he's played 29 games in a row up until Wednesday. Now, I must clarify that though by saying that he started with a back three 29 times in a row, but actually against Ukraine in the summer and against Ireland in the summer, he changed to a back four during it because the whole bloody thing was falling apart. Pardon my language. I think it's really interesting, Graham. I think people are talking about Robertson maybe being left out. I think it's inconceivable that Robertson won't come back into the team when he's fit and available. I think Clark thinks too much of him, So then, I mean, to me, the options are only that you go back to what we've had before, which is Robertson wide, Tierney on the left of a three, or you go to a back four with Robertson at left back and Tierney as a left centre half and a two. Not sure about that. He might. And I suppose the other option, a bit more novel, would be Tierney as left back and Robertson as left midfield, which would be experimental. I'd like to see it tried in a friendly or something. So to be honest, I don't think that Wednesday showed a permanent return to a back four, Graham. I think he'll mix it up. And I mean, it's not an issue for these remaining 2 games because Robertson's out. But I think it is going to be fascinating to see what he does. But I'm not in the camp of throwing out a back three and thinking that that's, Wednesday showed that this is the only way. We played some really cracking games with a back three. We beat Denmark last year. Terrific performance with a back three. Brilliant at Wembley with a back three. But I must admit, I thought a four was superb. The balance of the team looked great on Wednesday. But that was a team without Robertson, who I think he's going to bring straight back in when he's fit.
In terms of tomorrow, do you think it's important that we spoke about this earlier? Do you think it's important that Scotland build on that momentum and get that win? Because that Ireland game over there was probably one of the poorest performances under Steve Clarke. Just nothing was right. So do you think it's important that we build on Wednesday night tomorrow?
I think it's absolutely enormous. I mean, the thing that worried me about the summer games against Ukraine and Ireland was that for both of them, the team just didn't turn up. There was no kind of energy or aggression or commitment or belief, all these things which sound a bit kind of basic, but it's essential. I mean, I think all of Scotland's best performances under Clarke have been when we've really been at it from the start and high tempo. I'm not saying it's easy to play that way, but that's when we're at our best,
Yeah.
And I think it's absolutely essential that we build on it and play with the same kind of tempo if we can, not only against Ireland but against Ukraine in Krakow on Tuesday. Because I think when we do all that and when we bring the right attitude, I think we're a pretty good team. And also, maybe you've touched on it, but I think a Saturday night game at Hampden, the atmosphere is going to be terrific.
Oh, it's going to be amazing.
It's going to be amazing. It's going to be bouncing, and hopefully that the players can tap into that. Ireland are an okay side. We made them look better than that in June, but we're not playing one of the elite teams here. We're man by man, we are better than Ireland. It's just a case of bringing. Yeah, it's just a case of bringing the right attitude, Regan.
I was going to ask you, Michael, in terms of Steve Clarke, did he mention John? Because John's got his 50th cap tomorrow if he plays.
Yeah. Well, McGinn was talked about by the players and the players we spoke to and Clarke. I mean, 14 goals he scored, and big goals as well. I mean, although we were really dominant in the second half, you needed that breakthrough. You needed a goal to come to just kind of open it up and let the players relax. I mean, what a Scotland player McGinn's been. Absolutely outstanding. I mean, he'll be the captain tomorrow night, won't he? Without Robertson there, and as you said, the 50th cap. I think the fans absolutely love him. You can see how they respond to him and they chant his name and they've got their songs for him and all that. And I think he loves that. He's a Tartan Army guy himself. So yeah, McGinn, an absolute star of the kind of Steve Clarke era. I think it's obvious. Do
you know what I find quite funny? I was going to ask Regan this actually. Do you know what I find quite funny, Regan? You speak about John McGinn. He's been brilliant for Scotland, no doubt about that. But at the moment, for Aston Villa, like the rest of them, they're struggling they're struggling in the Premiership under Gerrard. I don't know what's going wrong there, but McGinn's form for Scotland is completely different to what it is for Villa.
Probably because he's given the armband at Villa and he feels a bit more pressure. Obviously, he's given the armband in Scotland, but I think it's a totally different thing for him because of the fact that he's been it before. Obviously, there was a bit of a feud with Steven Gerrard and Tyrone Miggs at the start of the season as well, so that's probably playing into it as well, Graham. I think Michael, I was just going to say, see in terms of Republic Island, Michael, what the players saying, because for me, this is a game that we can fully dominate and fully do well in, because me, Graham, was speaking about it. I think every player in the squad is better than every player in the Republic Island squad.
Yeah, I think that as well. Although I also thought that in June, and look how it worked out. I mean, again, I go back to that point. I think you have to have the attitude right. I mean, Ireland play with a bit of character as well. I mean, they were going into that game in the summer on a really dreadful record. I mean, Stephen Kenny was under a lot of pressure. They'd actually never won a game in the Nations League in about a dozen attempts. It's still the only game they've ever won in the Nations League, but they did follow it with a draw away to Ukraine and Poland, which, that's a solid result as well. But I agree with you. I mean, it's not an Ireland that had any of the kind of stars that they've had over the last 10, 15 years, a Robbie Keane, for example, or Roy Keane or even Shea Given in goals. There isn't really a standout player.
Yeah.
Whereas you would look at us and think, well, when they're all fit, Tierney, Robertson, McTominay, McGinn, guys that are prominent with English Premier League teams. So I agree with you. I think that man for man, we are better than Ireland, but you have to bring it. You have to show it, because the summer games showed what happens if you just don't turn up. You'll get steamrolled.
Aye.
We're going to move on to your beloved Aberdeen in a minute, Michael, because I know you love talking about Aberdeen. But before we get there, Dundee United has appointed Liam Fox as being the head coach of Dundee United, and Stevie Crawford will be his assistant manager. They've signed a 2-year deal, and the first game is next weekend against Johnson. What's your take on that, Michael? Because over the weeks that we spoke about, who's going to get the Dundee United job and whatever, but as every week's went past, you always knew it was going to be Liam Fox. Basically, it's the worst kept secret, kept quiet, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
are you surprised? I think my take on it, Michael, would be they're kind of like going down the same route as they did with Tam Courts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the interesting thing that you said there was that he's on a 2-year contract, because, to be blunt, you would wonder if he'll get the 2 years, because I think that has been the problem at Dundee United recently. I think the last something like 4 or 5 Dundee United managers have only had one full season. Robbie Nielsen and Mickey Mellon and Tam Courts, and obviously Jack Ross was in and out in the blink of an eye. So you hear things about the way Dundee United do their business, which would make you fear for any manager that's there, because I think there's question marks over the amount of autonomy that the manager gets. There's question marks about the level of support that he gets in his decision making. And frankly, managers seem to find it a place that they can't comfortably work for very long, and they start to look to get out. I mean, Courts did a fantastic job in particular, and credit to United for appointing him. And taking that gamble and thinking this is a guy that could step up. Now, he did step up, but he's gone after a season. I mean, I think United should be asking themselves why. Why could you not keep a hold of that guy? And Fox, best of luck to him. It's a big job. I think. Am I right in thinking they're bottom of the league at the moment?
Yep.
Early days, of course, but that's a difficult, pressure to come into. He's an inexperienced guy. He's young. You would just naturally, you'd have to ask, is he a strong enough character to impose as well on that club and the way it's run by the board and the owners?
And I think especially, Michael, because you look at the when they played Celtic, Charlie McGrew, Tony Watt, Ian Harkes, 3 of their biggest players were sitting on the bench. So if you don't appease these players, they can certainly get you sacked in a minute.
I mean, they appoint a manager in the summer. They give him the transfer window. He gets, 7 games? Now, it had fallen apart, and it didn't look like the players were performing for Jack Ross. But then, you get rid of a manager and then appoint a new guy when the window's shut. And it's like, well, you pick up this mess that has been created. Yeah. I think it's a really difficult position for Fox. I can understand why he would want the job. It's a good profile job in Scottish football, but it's far from ideal circumstances to be taking it, I would say.
Graham, what's your take on the appointment of Liam Fox?
I think it's a good appointment. I think he's shown that he's a really good coach. He was at Hearts for a while as well. And I just think I would have to ask the question that you can see from very early days that the players are playing for him. Why weren't they playing for Jack Ross? But the thing is, they played for Jack Ross in that first game against Atmar where they were great. We came on the show on Friday and they were absolutely standing that day. And then it just fell apart. And that 9-0 hammering by Celtic was awful. But they're playing for Liam Fox, and you can see that. even at Ibrox last week, I thought they gave Rangers a lot of problems. And the substitution they made, and before Liam Smith scored, it was a great change. It was an attacking change, and they caused problems. So I think Fox could do very, very well. But as Michael said, is it going to last 2 years? Is it a risk? Yeah, potentially, because he's not matched before. But I think you can see early on that those players are playing for him that they didn't play under Jack Ross for some reason.
I think it's comparisons to Thomas Courts as well. And look, we can say that he jumped ship because there's more money involved. That's the way I see it as well. And maybe better weather where he's going as well. But nobody knew that nobody knew anything about Tam Courts before he came in. Yeah, he played Rangers in the first game of the season at Tannadice, and they beat them 1-0. And I remember them coming to Parkhead and Ibrox and giving Celtic and Rangers a very difficult game. So maybe Liam Fox is going to be like that, Regan.
Yeah, I think if you're Dundee United, I think that maybe he's the kind of guy that would go in there and try and do something different. Maybe the players were just a bit fed up with Jack Ross. But I think it's a difficult one because I think everybody in this panel knows how fickle football fans can be. I mean, see if he goes in there. I don't know who they're playing next week, but if he gets off
Johnson.
I mean, if they get off to a bad start against St Johnson, then they'll start to question already, saying, "Is it too inexperienced? Is he not good enough?" You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
And then if he wins, it'll be that was a fantastic appointment. You know what I mean? So I think the important thing from is that see if you're not doing well and you're not picking up 3 points, then the important thing is to show that you've got a bit about you and show that you can pick up points here and there because we've seen it last year. Motherwell, I think there's a stat, Michael, that Motherwell didn't win a game between I think it was October and something like March, but they still finished the top 6. So see if you can pick up points between now and obviously when we go to the World Cup, then I think he's got a chance because, like we said, obviously Graham Alexander got his jaws in the first game of the season, but he's still got Motherwell to a European spot. So I think all of these teams are very well matched, Michael.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point at the end there because I think there is much of a muchness between most of the teams. I think the Old Firm obviously are ahead, and then I think Hearts are probably fairly solid. I thought Aberdeen might overtake them at third this season, but I'm now not so sure. But by and large, I think they're all capable of beating each other. The rump of 9, 10 clubs are all capable of beating it. It's not a league that you'd put many bets on with any confidence because the results are too unpredictable, I think.
Mate, I'm going to move on now and speak about Aberdeen. Freedom of speech in Scottish football. If you say anything, you'll be put over hot coals with a pie in your face. And I think that happened to Jim Goodwin last week. Now we all know the incident that I was talking about, that the Aberdeen Hibs game Porteous incident as well. But Michael, if you can't come out and speak the truth after the game, managers will be scared to come out after the game because they know what's going to happen to them, and that's what's happening to Mr. Goodwin at the moment. I don't think that is very fair. What's your take on it, Michael?
I think that Jim Goodwin would have known what consequences there would be from the moment he said it, and possibly even before he said it. I think I think Jim Goodwin's been a good manager for Aberdeen so far, and there's a potential for it to keep getting better. But that game was pretty wretched from Aberdeen, to be honest with you. The performance was really poor. Even though they took a 1-goal lead, they were unconvincing even in the first half at and then the Scales incident with Porteous put Aberdeen down to 10 men, and then a penalty equaliser, and then Hibs went on to dominate the second half. So I wondered, in fact, even before I'd heard what he said, I wondered how strong he might go on that Porteous incident, because it is a way for a manager to deflect attention and deflect the news agenda away from a poor performance from his team.
Oh, that's true.
It's a way to say, well, we'll make the headlines about that incident. Now, I think he was entitled to be annoyed by the incident. I mean, I think that Porteous did make the most of it and was clever in the way that he kind of wrestled himself and Scales down, and Scales gets the second yellow card and a red, and he's sent off and he's suspended for the next game. It's a big punishment, but whether it's sensible to come out and call somebody a blatant cheat or blatantly cheating, from a freedom of speech point of view, fine. But we know that you're governed by rules within Scottish football. I think what's annoying Aberdeen supporters is that Robbie Neilson said something very similar about Lewis Ferguson last season. And when I say very similar, I mean identical, although I think he didn't. I think he said that the team had been the victim of blatant cheating rather than Liam Ferguson. But but you're dancing on the head of a pin with different definitions like that. But Robbie Neilson wasn't disciplined or sanctioned or brought to account by the SFA, whereas Jim Goodwin is. Now, that, I think, is difficult to get your head around, and I think that annoys supporters. But in general, managers know, Michael, they know if they're going to come out and say stuff like that, they know there are consequences for it. I think the least surprising element of this for Goodwin would have been the fact that he's getting a charge from the SFA about it.
I think, let's ask Robin Nelson's best pal, Mr. Duffy. Obviously that we spoke about this on the show as well, but I think Michael's calling for a bit of consistency here. And consistency in Scottish football, well, we don't say that in the same sentence every day.
100%. I mean, I remember the Robin Nielsen thing last season, and he was let off, but I think Goodwin was quite right to say what he said. I know he knows he's going to get punished for it, but I said this last week. I've always said on the show, I'll always be honest, and I don't care of the fact it's Hibs. I've said this numerous times on this show. Ryan Porteous is very overrated. He's very overhyped. I don't think he's a great player at all. And I think he bought it. I think he conned the referee last week. You could see it in the replay. He's tugging on the jersey of Scales and then gets Scales in a headlock. Scales does nothing wrong. For me, it's never a penalty a million years, and it's not a sending off. So I think Jim Goodwin's quite right to come out and say what he said. He knows he's going to get done for it, but he didn't care. He said what he said, and he's honest, and I agreed with him. I said this last Sunday. I agreed with it. And Aberdeen, I thought they started well last week. Duke has a really good header, and I thought Aberdeen started really well. But there's no doubt for me that red card changes the game. I mean, I know Goodwin said that they probably get something out of the game if they don't get sent off. I don't know about that. But I thought the sending off for me was ridiculous. And again, I think if VAR is in now, I don't think that decision gets made.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think it would have been a red card if VAR had looked at that again. I think he knows what he's doing. I think he knows that he's trying to wrestle the two of them down and make it look like he's underneath Scales, so he's the one that's the kind of victim of being pushed or pulled down. Listen, I've interviewed or been in press conferences with Porteous a couple of times. He's a likeable enough lad. I think he does have a streak in him in games where he doesn't mind noising up the opposition or doesn't mind stuff like this. I think it's kind of water off a duck's back. You've seen him have run-ins with Rangers over the years as well. He has got a bit of a back record for this kind of thing. And I do wonder if it'll work against him in his career if he stays up in Scotland, that he becomes a focal point for opposition fans or even for referees, and maybe the best thing for him is to go and kind of move down south. Now, he might move down south anyway. Most promising young Scottish international players do gravitate towards England. Maybe a fresh start for Porteous wouldn't be the worst thing for him, because we're talking about him here. We'll probably talk about him again at some point later in the season, because he does appear to be a guy who attracts controversy and frankly doesn't mind attracting controversy.
The irony is he then gets skilled up to the Scotland squad. But the thing is, am I right in thinking that because it wasn't a straight red card, that Aberdeen can't appeal that because it was a second yellow card?
Second yellow. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I genuinely think if that had been a red card defence, Aberdeen could have appealed that, and I think it would have got overturned. Because I said at the time, it was never a sending off. It's not a penalty.
And I don't understand the inability to appeal a second yellow card when it means a red, because the consequences are still the same, you know?
Yep.
I mean, Liam Scales, as I said, it's a triple punishment. You've got a penalty, you've got a red card in the game, so you're virtually with just over half the game with 10 men, plus he misses the next match. You know, I mean, that's a hell of a heavy set of punishments for something that we're all agreeing here that it's probably a wrong call, you know? So I don't understand why, if the mechanism is there to appeal red cards, why it's not considered valid to appeal one for a second yellow, because the punishment is the same.
Just before we move on, and VAR, that could fill another show for about 4 hours instead of 2 hours. But before we move on to the small ball, did you see that I did there, Reagan, tennis? Because we went from the big ball to the wee ball. Never mind. Yeah. Never mind. I think it's funny. So Reagan's going to speak about tennis. We're going to give you a wee update because Andy Murray is playing tennis tonight. But before we do that, I just wanted to touch upon like ice hockey, because I know we like to speak about ice hockey on the show. Glasgow Clan, they're away to Cardiff tonight. Say that again. Cardiff Devils, they're playing away, so I bet if you're a wee devil, you could like that game. That's a 7:30 kickoff, that one. And on the basketball on Sunday, we have got the Glasgow Rocks. They're playing the Eagles. Now, before you say it, Reagan, no, it's not Eagles as in take it easy. It's the Eagles, the basketball team. That's a 5 o'clock kickoff in that one. Well, they don't call it a 5 o'clock kickoff. I think they call it a tip off in that game. I'm not really sure. Anyway, I'll move on because I've made a mess about already. So Reagan, Andy Murray.
Yeah, I mean, he played last week in Glasgow. He played in the Davis Cup. He obviously won his singles against Kazakhstan, but now he's playing in Roger Federer's last competition in the Laver Cup. Looking forward to watching this later on, Michael. I mean, I don't know if Michael was there last week, but I was lucky enough to be there, and it's just great to see Andy Murray playing well again. I mean, he's obviously playing for Team Europe against Team rest of the world in a Ryder Cup format of tennis. So they'll play over Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and it'll be Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal, Djokovic, and Murray, along with Tsitsipas. So that'll be the European team, and then they'll play players from the rest of the planet. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be good to see. I mean, obviously we don't know how long Andy Murray's going to be playing, Michael, but he's going to be playing tonight against Alex de Minaur from Australia. So yeah, I think it'll be a close game, Michael. I don't know if you enjoy tennis or anything like that, but yeah, it's just good to see Andy Murray back playing.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, you know, we've just seen Federer retire, and I mean, I think we all realise that Andy's best days are behind him. You know, we always kind of hope that he'll pull off some last heroics at the majors, but you know, but obviously at his age and with his hip and other issues, his best days are behind him. What an athlete, what a sportsman he's been, and what a credit to Scotland and to Scottish sport, you know, and I hope that when he does finish, that he remains a prominent figure in our lives, because I I find him really entertaining as a guy. You know, I think I like his kind of dry sense of humour. He's a Hibs fan, I think, as well, isn't he? So you know, he's got an interest in Scottish football. But yeah, I mean,
not a Hibs fan, he's not.
Well, exactly. I told you had a sense of humour, you know. But you know, yeah, I mean, you've got this incredible era of tennis where Federer, Djokovic, Nadal, and you know, maybe not quite to the same extent, but Murray's been up there too. And to be honest, I mean, Djokovic is, you know, going to end up with the most major tournament wins of them all, isn't he? Because he's that bit younger and he's still motoring on. But yeah, I think when the time comes for Andy to call it quits, it'll be a pretty poignant day for Scottish sport, you know.
I think we've been very lucky that we've seen like guys like Sampras, Federer, Djokovic, Andy Murray, and Nadal. We've seen some absolutely outstanding tennis players, and hopefully there's other ones coming through, but I just don't see anyone being on the same level as these guys because they've been absolutely incredible for years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Regan, whereabouts is this tournament?
This will be in London, Michael, in the O2 Arena. So people can still go and see it if they want to see it. But I just wanted to ask, Michael, have you ever managed to meet him, Michael?
No, I haven't. No, I mean, to be honest, not really. Don't deviate much from football. I did years ago. Used to do occasional golf and boxing.
Oh, golf, fine.
But no, I've never. In fact, it was interesting actually. To be honest, if I'd been more aware of it or alive to it, I might have tried to go to that Davis Cup, and at least I've been able to see Murray play once before he retires. But no, I can't claim to have any. But I mean, yeah, actually, maybe one day he'll do something broadly football related or whatever, or you know, show up at Easter Road and do some media. But I think he's very comfortable doing the media, isn't he? You know, he's very relaxed and sure of himself doing it as you would be when you're as successful as he's been.
Regan, I was going to ask you, Regan, in terms of like British sport, how highly would you rate Andy Murray?
I think he's top.
Yeah.
I think for Andy Murray to go from Dunblane to win back-to-back Olympic gold medals, I mean, I don't know if that's talked about enough, but people forget that when you play the Olympics is in a 4-year cycle. So if you go from London straight into Rio, that's from 2012 to 2016. That's 4 years difference, and I think it's impressive the way he's done it. Obviously, and Michael, you'll remember this, and Graham as well. Remember when Andy Murray lost the final of Wimbledon when he was crying all the tears with Subaka and stuff, and then he came out 7 days later and won the Olympic gold against Federer on that same court. So that just shows, you know what I mean? Like, if that's someone else, maybe they would say, right, well, maybe we can excuse Andy Murray for having a bad week off, for not playing well, because 7 days ago he got put out in the final, but then he beats Djokovic in the semi-final, and then beats Federer to win the Olympic gold, and not a lot of people speak about it as well. He got to world number one when Djokovic was at the peak of his powers, Nadal was at the peak of his powers, Federer was at the peak of his powers, and then he goes to world number one. He wins the tour finals in London against Djokovic, and don't forget as well. See, when you look back at the whole Murray as well, when he played that US Open, the very first one, it was a 5-set match over 6 hours of play. You know, it was amazing. Like, I mean, you get football players that are moaning to play 90 minutes. I mean, Andy Murray played 6 hours of tennis against probably the best tennis players ever lived in Djokovic, and beat him to win his first title.
But on the days after that first title, or maybe it was a few weeks later, but he came back to Dunblane and you know, did a kind of walk through the streets of Dunblane. And I don't live very far from Dunblane, so we went along with my boys.
Oh, nice.
And I mean, the streets were absolutely, I mean, it was, you know, about 10 deep around the streets, and he was kind of crisscrossing through through the town and he shook everybody's hand that wanted it, or signed every autograph book, or posed for selfies. It took him forever to get through it, but I just thought this was an incredible scene because Scottish sport doesn't get this very often. I mean, you get occasional cup parades for football teams, but for individual sportsmen or women to get that kind of reaction from the public, I thought was astonishing. And I mean, if you're ever go through Dunblane, the gold post box is still there, and I'm assuming that's a permanent.
I got a picture beside that as well, Michael. It's like,
yeah, it's great. I really like it. I think it's different, and it's it's a fitting kind of permanent tribute to him. It's so yeah. I couldn't speak more highly of Murray. I think he's been fantastic.
I know we're running out of time. I just wanted to ask Michael what his prediction was for tomorrow's game.
Oh yeah.
I'll go 2-0 Scotland. I do worry a little bit that sometimes this team just doesn't show up, and it didn't show up twice in the summer. But I think there is a feeling. I think there's a determination this time that they know they let themselves down in Dublin, and on the back of the energy and the fun and the excitement and the joy of midweek against Ukraine, I think they'll be okay tomorrow night. I think they'll win by a couple, so I'll say 2-0.
Okay, so thanks, Michael, joining us on the show. Thanks, Graham. Thanks, Reagan. Don't forget, we'll be back tomorrow night after the big game. 10, we're on the back shift, 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock. We'll be here for hopefully a victory against Ireland, and then on Tuesday night as well, after the Ukraine game in Poland. And obviously, we'll be back to normal next weekend, next Friday and Sunday. Okay, we'll see you soon. Have a good weekend, and come on, Scotland!